Welcome to another video from McFatter Tech Musser. If you like these videos, please click subscribe. Okay, good day. We're going to be doing a little lab today. We're going to be setting up a dual boot environment for both Windows Server and Windows 10. And don't have to do this on a physical machine, but my students will be. But to demonstrate it, we're going to do it in a VM. So I've already created my virtual machine. I'm going to go ahead and get that started. And the whole key, I don't care whether you're booting from a DVD, whether you're booting from a USB, whatever it is, that first boot device that we're going to use, we're going to install Windows Server first. And you could do this with multiple versions. I've also got a copy of Windows Server 2012 eval. I could put that in. The result is at the end, we're going to have a boot menu when we first turn the computer on. So let's get this started. Let's get this on the road, so to speak. Press any key to install. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch this thing to full screen, even though, of course, our installation's not. So initially, our installation is just like any other time we're going to install Windows. We're going to click Next. We're going to install now. And the key to being able to dual boot is we need to have multiple partitions on the hard drive that we're installing to. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to do Standard Edition eval, desktop experience. We could do data center. We could do whatever version we wanted to. We'll accept the terms. Next. We're going to do custom. And we're not going to install to the entire drive. I'm going to create a small partition. Let's say we're going to go 40 gigabytes in size. And it's going to automatically select that drive partition 4. The other 3 we can see is our recovery, our system, our reserved partition. We're going to let it install there. When we come back for our next install or next installs, we're going to select unallocated space and then partition that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let this roll through. Shouldn't take very long. I'm going to pause this while all the files get copied. Okay, so our installation has finished copying the files. We're installing some updates. I had a question about being able to do this, and basically what I was saying was that we need to either have our boot medium be first in order when we start that computer up, or we need to be able to go into a boot menu in our UEFI BIOS and then select the item, the USB or the DVD that we want to boot from. Because after we've installed Windows Server, of course when we restart that computer, it wants to start Windows Server. But we want to install a second operating system. So here, our Windows Server is starting for the first time. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let that finish starting up. So what's going to happen is server's going to finish installing. We're not going to worry about updating or anything like that. I mean, if we were going to use this, we would, of course. I'm not worried about that. Once server's up and running, fully operational, the only thing we're going to have to do is set a password. At that point, I'm going to shut my virtual machine down. In your case, you'll shut down your physical machine. You'll change the medium that you want to boot from, Windows 10 instead of Windows Server. And then we're going to make sure we change the boot order, because this is in this case, this is a Generation 2 virtual machine. So it's UEFI, and it's going to want to boot from the Windows Boot Manager. So I set our typical password that we use all the time, which is password 01, just all we use in the lab. Here at Hyper-V, we do Alt-Control. Do we do Alt-Control-Delete? No, we do Alt-Control-End to access that in a virtual machine. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get logged in here. This should only take a few more moments. And we'll be up and running in Windows. And you can see I'm not in enhanced mode right now, because it's the first startup of it. And we'll go ahead, we'll let it, I've got it connected to our external. That way, when I do the Windows 10 eval, the eval is not going to show up as it being expired, because it'll be able to connect to the internet, and it'll have its license for 90 days. So we should see Windows Server Manager start up here in just a moment. And here again, while that loads, I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so we can see Windows Server Manager is loaded. We're up and we're running. Yeah, a couple little events. I don't really care about that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell it to shut down. And it's a planned shutdown. Okay, now I'm going to go into my settings. Same thing as what you would do in your physical machine, going into your UEFI or your BIOS settings. I'm doing it in a virtual machine. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that medium that I'm going to boot from. I'm switching to my ISO for Windows 10. The next thing you can see here, because this is UEFI, it wants to boot from that EFI file that tells it to start Windows Server. I want to move my DVD back up to the top of the list. We'll apply that, and we're going to get started. And just like that, you can see that it's going to boot my Windows 10. This could be another copy of Windows Server, or a different copy, whatever. You can install 2, 3, 4, however many different versions you want. The whole key here is to pick the partition size that you want to install to. We accept. We're next. We go to custom, because this is a clean install. Now, if I installed a partition 4 on drive 0, I'm going to overwrite my Windows Server installation. I want to go to my unallocated space, and here again I'm going to say I want to make it 40 gigabits in size, because maybe I would have a third operating system that I want to install. You don't know. You can do that. So we're going to let it select that. We're going to partition 5. We're going to click next. It's going to do its partitioning. It's taking care of everything for us. Now, while it copies files, here again, I'm going to pause the video because there's no point in us watching it count from 0 up to 100. Okay, so we've finished copying from our ISO, installing some updates. We're finishing up, and we should be rebooting here in just a few moments. There we go. We're not going to wait. When this restarts, it's going to be like installing any other copy of Windows 10. It's going to ask us, you know, do we want what location? Oh, look at that. There's my boot menu. But Windows 10 starting. It's going to go through the rest of the setup for Windows 10. From here on out, when I restart this virtual machine, I'm going to have a boot menu where I can pick. If I don't touch the keyboard, Windows 10 will start. The first item on the list will be the default, but I can always select a different one. As you can see, Windows Server setup doesn't take near as long as Windows 10. So while we sit here and watch Swirly go around, I'm going to pause this. Okay, so our first initial install happened, and you can see right here, Windows 10 will automatically run in 22 seconds. So if I don't touch the screen, if I don't touch my keyboard, Windows 10 is going to start by default. I want to start Windows 10 because I want to finish our setup. So back to Swirly again. Let's see how long it could take for us to actually set up Windows 10. And I'm going to pause it again because I hate sitting and watching things go round and round. Okay, finally, we can finally finish our setup. Let's do this. Yes, 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 skip, yes, yes. Set a password. Oh, great, more important setup to do. More Swirly. Yeah, I think I'll pause the video again. Okay, so we finished our setup. We can choose whichever copy of Windows we want. You can see by default it's going to run Windows 7 or Windows 10. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Windows Server, either or, whichever one I want to run. And yeah, let's go ahead. We're going to switch this thing to full screen or enhanced session. And there we are. So here's our full-blown copy of Windows Server. I can log off, I can restart, and access Windows 10, whichever operating system I want to work with. So dual boot, fully functional. It's just that simple. If I wanted to install a third operating system, I could. Typically though, you want to do Windows 10 as your last installation. This concludes this lab. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was beneficial. I hope it was educational. And as I always say, see you in the next lab or lesson.